Welcome back to another episode of DEC Does What? I'm Sean Mahar along with
Erica Ringwald.
And Erica, today we are talking turkeys.
I know, it's so cool.
It's going to be fun. This was actually Erica's episode. She really wanted to have this conversation and really tell the story about turkeys in New York. So Erica, who do we have on with us today?
Well, today we have a very special guest. We've got Gordon Batcheller. He is the retired bureau chief of DEC's Bureau of Wildlife, and he is a current wildlife biologist with the Northeast Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies. Welcome back,
Hi,
Gordon.
Everyone. Good to be here. Thank you.
And we've got Mike Menza. Mike is an environmental program specialist in the Hunter Education Program down on Long Island. That's also part of the Division of Fish and Wildlife. And Mike is the person responsible for the music you hear on the podcast.
The man, myth, and legend. Here you go.
No, it's like we've got celebrities today.
Oh, it's an honor to be here. This is just great.
So we're talking turkeys today, and turkeys are a great success story about how, DEC really works to really restore wildlife populations in the state, and this being a prime example of one of those comeback stories of where, our obviously impacts on the landscape have impacted populations, and over time we've obviously spent a lot of efforts on bringing them back. So you two, Gordon, you were definitely more on the front lines of that. So we'll start off with you. Maybe tell us a little bit about the story of the wild turkey. So how do we come to talk turkeys today?
It's a wonderful story. And I would say that today, most New Yorkers, as they drive across the state, have probably seen a wild turkey. Because as you drive the Thruway or any of our major roads, the turkeys are in those fields. Well, this is a recent phenomenon. I was born in 1956, and when I was born, there were basically very few wild turkeys in New York. Now there are close to 250,000, probably more.
Wow.
So what happened? Well, the 1800s, as we look back on those years, we romanticize that period of time a little bit. But actually for wildlife, it was a tough century. As the country expanded, as New York grew, our landscape changed. It changed to farmlands, and our forested landscape was logged off heavily. This was not sustainable forestry. This was very exploitative forestry. So the animals that depended on woodlands, including turkeys, white-tailed deer, black bear, and the passenger pigeon, really basically lost the places they lived. And so by the Civil War, the turkeys were essentially gone, and they were gone from New York for about 100 years. Well, what happened? Well, first of all, the landscape started to come back and be restored into a wooded condition after the 1900s, and that was because the farmland economy basically shifted westward to the more fertile soils of the Midwest. The soils of the Northeast were run down and worn out. And so it made no sense to keep farming. And so if you don't mow your lawn, the grasses grow, the weeds grow, the shrubs grow, and eventually you get trees. And that happened across the state of New York at a landscape scale. So slowly, through the 1900s, the landscape was restored to a wooded condition, which we see now. But the turkeys were still very small in number. Throughout the 1800s, the turkeys sustained an existence because of the deep wooded landscape of Appalachia and the southern swamps. So they had a toehold in those mountainous regions that were hard to get to, hard to lumber and hard to hunt. The other thing about the 1800s we have to remember is hunting was unregulated. It was basically subsistence style taking whenever someone needed something to take. So the landscape's restored, and also around the turn of the century, the 1900s, a conservation ethic happened. And our former governor, Theodore Roosevelt, was the leader of that effort. And when he became president, he really made it a national priority. So the conservation ethic blossomed here in New York, and we are very much part of that success story. What that meant is regulations were put in place to protect game, like the wild turkey. So now we had two conditions in place. One is the landscape is getting better, and the regulations are in place to protect species. But something else happened, and that was around the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. scientific wildlife management blossomed. We had trained people who could work here in the conservation department, our old name, and recognize what turkeys needed and what we needed to do to restore them. And in New York, the story started in Allegheny and Cattaraugus County, because that was where those Appalachian survivors kind of moved northward and got a toehold in Allegheny State Park. And the first birds were seen in 1948. By the 1950s and 60s, the Conservation Department was actively restoring the wild turkey. So now we had a place for them to live, but they had to get there. Now, they would have eventually gotten there slowly, but we did something called trap and transfer. We basically captured birds in one location, put them in a truck, and drove them 100 miles or more and put them in a new location. And when we put them in that new location, it was like home again, home again, and they thrived. So it was restoration of the landscape. It's the same story. Habitat matters more than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
The regulatory regime, to have systems in place, the licensed hunters, and to have seasons and to have bag limits and all of that, to have enforcement. And then the science, to understand where turkeys could live and then to give them a helping hand. And so throughout the Northeast and certainly throughout New York, turkeys were moved. It was a real operation. It would happen throughout the 60s, 70s, and even 80s. In my career, I helped restore turkeys to Niagara County. And I also got involved in bringing turkeys back to Long Island. Now, think about Long Island for a minute. Turkeys probably winked out there in the 1600s or 1700s just due to overexploitation. When the department put them back in the 1990s, now you have turkeys there for the first time in 250 or 300 years.
Oh, wow.
It was remarkable.
And now there's a lot of them.
Yeah. So, Mike, why don't you talk to us about that? What is the turkey population like on Long Island?
Well, there's a lot of birds on Long Island, and they are very adaptable. They also live in neighborhoods and the public land that we have out there, but it's spectacular how much they've exploded in that amount of time. And the turkey hunting is just phenomenal. We have a blast out there. We have several mentorship programs. We have a youth hunt, and it's very successful, and other mentored turkey hunts. It's a great place to be able to access land safely. We have Chip Hamilton worked with Michelle Gibbons on opening a turkey season only 3 years ago, a regular season in May like we have upstate.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been so successful. The key is making sure that access is regulated. So there's specific parking spots that you have to park in, and there's limited parking because it would be unsafe to have that many people on the limited amount of land that we have, because there's so many people on Long Island. And there's a lot of people that know that hunting's great, so they come into Long Island and enjoy the experience. So thanks to those access rules, we've had a very safe hunting experience for everybody, and also quality hunting, because people are not as disturbed, and they're not having issues bumping into each other in the woods as much. So it's been great, a true success.
Mike, you mentioned something that I think is quite interesting about the adaptability of wild turkeys. In the early years when we were learning about wild turkeys, our biologists thought that they required vast landscapes of forested cover. Well, that's because that's where they were at that time. But some of the biologists said, I think this other landscape might work too, the farmed landscape, where you have patches of woods and fields, And lo and behold, when the turkeys were moved to that landscape, the dairy country of upstate New York, they thrived. In fact, when I look around and think about places to hunt, I look for places with a mixture of woods and fields. In fact, today, the wild turkey is in all parts of New York, including parts of New York City, including mountainous, rugged country in the Catskills and the Adirondacks. They are an adaptable bird.
They're in Staten Island.
Yes, I know.
And they're also in my backyard. So this was a pic, and
Oh,
I'll probably put this in
wow.
the show notes too so people
Oh,
can see
impressive.
it. Last week, my daughter looks out the window in the morning. She's like, Dad, there's turkeys. And then we had to have a conversation about the birds and the bees. I had to explain male turkeys and female turkeys and what the two males were doing to try and attract the female that was in the backyard. So
It's interesting you mentioned that because it's that biology that enables us today to have a spring turkey hunt. The turkey hunting in the spring is happening right now in New York. It's the month of May. And that is possible even though they're breeding now because turkeys are polygamous, meaning one male can mate with multiple females. So if you remove one male through hunting, there will be another male that will step in. So it makes it possible for sustainable take of wild turkeys in the spring with males only. And there's something about spring turkey hunting which is really magical. It's that behavior, that photograph you showed, and how they interact with each other, the way the hens interact with the males, and just all these dynamics of dominance and hierarchy and literally pecking order. It makes it a really interesting type of hunt because to be successful as a turkey hunter, you really have to dial in that behavior.
Yeah, understanding animal behavior is a big thing. I feel like I should say this too. You know, I grew up in New York City, and I'm very grateful that I had mentors. I had my father, I had my uncle, my grandfather to show me what animal behavior is and the art of turkey hunting. And it inspired me to mentor people that might not have had that growing up. And it's just a great thing to take somebody who may have grown up in the city and bring them out in the outdoors and watch them learn and see the excitement on their face when they hear a bird gobble and understanding that the communication that the bird's having with you. It's a beautiful thing to see. And that's why we're having a lot of these mentorship programs to have people understand those different tactics and skills and understanding that animal behavior to be a successful turkey hunter, because it takes a lot of skill, and I'm forever learning. I don't know about you, Gordon, but I'm always learning something every day.
I've hunted turkeys for about 35 years, and I still don't know what I'm doing.
well, that makes two of us, Gordon.
I honestly, every year I learn something new. Every year I get busted by turkeys. Every year I do the same dumb thing over and over. It's just a humbling experience. And that's why turkey hunting is so popular, because it's hard, and it should be hard. We want hunting to be hard. It's very rewarding. It's a wonderful time of the year to be out. Right now, the spring birds are returning. Lots of warblers. The thrushes are back. I heard my first cuckoo today.
Oh, nice.
So it's a nice time to be out.
Watching the sun come up.
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing.
And just visualize a silent moment in a forested landscape early in the morning as the sun is just rising and a turkey gobbles. And when they gobble, it's like thunder.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a blood pressure moment right then and there, you need to see a doctor.
Yep. There might be a hole in your soul if you can't feel that, right?
This is a great conversation about turkeys. We're going to take a short break and be right back, continuing our conversation with Gordon Batcheller and Mike Menza.
Looking for your next summer read? Sign up for DEC's Conservationist Magazine. The Conservationist Magazine brings you inspiring stories about the protection of New York State's air, water, forests, fish, and wildlife. Get connected to the state's outdoor resources and cultural legacy. Start your subscription today for only $12. Learn more by visiting dec.ny.gov and search Conservationist.
So turkey hunting is hard. I hear that loud and clear. Can you both share some of your best tips?
Yes, be glad to. The first is the most important. You need to go hunting. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, first of all, I've been getting up every morning at about 3:15.
Ouch.
And I'm kind of gassed. But I don't like the idea of a turkey gobbling and I'm not there to hear it. So I get up and I'm out there. And this morning I heard a pile of turkeys gobbling. I didn't get one, didn't even see one, but I heard them. And I just love that. But after hunting for 5 or 10 days, a lot of hunters they do get worn down. I understand it. So the people I know that consistently take turkeys are the ones that hunt as much as they can. And it's not just like going hunting for a day. It's like, okay, I've hunted for 3 hours and there's the next ridge. Am I going to climb that ridge and see if there's a turkey on the other side? Go hunting. One year when I was still working here, I had a meeting in, I think, Philadelphia, so I had to get a flight out of Albany in May. I hated it.
Cut into his turkey hunting time.
And I ran the numbers. I can take a shower in about 30 seconds. I can hunt about 10 minutes from my house. I can get up there in about, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and I'm sitting where I need to be. And then I have to get to the airport, park, etc. I found out through that calculation I could get in a hunt for about 5 minutes. I went hunting.
Sometimes that's all it takes.
I went hunting.
That's awesome.
So, and you do burn out, but here's a little secret. Yeah, turkey hunting is an early morning thing, but you know what? Turkey hunting between 9 o'clock and 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock is when you have to stop. Turkey hunting in mid-morning can be phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
And so if you're getting gassed, you're worn down, sleep in, and then go out at 9 o'clock. If you get a turkey to gobble at 10 o'clock, 10:30, 11, you better park your butt and get ready.
Get ready, because the hens may have left that tom, and now he's all alone at 10 o'clock. And when that tom hears a call, he's like, oh, that might be the hen that left me to go to her nest to lay an egg or sit on the nest.
Well, again, that's the biology behind the hunting and the behavioral thing you understand to be successful. Just as Mike said, the hens are laying an egg a day until they get a complete clutch of 10 to 12. Then they start incubating. And so they're with a gobbler initially, but then they go off to lay that egg. And now the gobbler's looking around. Where does she go? At 10 o'clock, 10:30, that's the time to be hunting.
Yep.
Now, the other thing, biologically speaking, once they have their full clutch of 10 to 12, they're going to start incubating. That's going to start happening right around now. So that means late spring hunting, the third and last week of May, can be excellent because those gobblers are now without those hens that they had all season.
So we're talking gobbling, and then Mike, before we get to what you were going to say, I just want to, we'll get back on turkey calls in a second, but Gordon mentioned hunting seasons. Can you talk about the season length and the time limits and restrictions that hunters should be aware of when it comes to spring turkey season and fall turkey season?
Yes. So it just opened on May 1st. Pretty much every year I've been hunting, it's been May 1st to May 31st, basically the month of May. And like Gordon said, you have to end at noon. So from sunrise to noon is the only time you could be out there hunting for turkeys. Now, people may ask why. There's a lot of reasons why, and correct me if I'm wrong, Gordon, but it does give an opportunity for those turkeys to relax in the afternoon. There aren't people stomping around in the woods. It gives a chance for the hens to lay on the nest and have a successful clutch. And the toms will calm down and come back into those roost areas, and it keeps the quality of hunting great as well. So there are some biological factors on why you can't hunt in the afternoon. And really, I support it. I think it's great. I know there's some other states that allow hunting in the afternoon during certain parts of their season, and there's other reasons for that too. But so far, it's worked for us, and definitely been a very safe experience for hunters and for the turkeys to be successful. And I guess I should talk about some safety factors too. Definitely. So when you're out there, number one thing, do not wear any red, white, and blue. Why? Because if you look at a turkey's head, especially a tom, it has red, white, and blue colors, and that could be mistaken to another hunter that those colors could be a turkey's head, which is the area that you aim to harvest a turkey. So that's one. Also, we recommend that you carry some orange with you, whether it's a hat or maybe a vest or something when you're walking from your vehicle to your hunting spot. So in case there's hunters, they could see that you're walking and there's no confusion there. But also another big factor is never stalk a turkey, because there's some great turkey callers out there, and you would definitely get mistaken from a distance or even up close to another hunter that is very good at turkey calling. So never stalk a turkey, because it could be a person calling.
All right. So let's talk turkey calls. And listeners of the show will know some people do bring props. And if you listen to Sturgeon Thunder, we've also heard the call of the sturgeon. But you two,
Memorable.
You two have brought some fun little turkey calls with us. And turkeys do more than gobble, right? So why don't you put on a little display for us of what to expect?
Well, let's start with some ancient history. So I am holding, your listeners can't see it, but it's a wingbone turkey call. And it's made up of the two bones of a turkey's forearm, basically the major part of its wing. And they're glued together and forming a bit of a trumpet type of thing.
That's so cool.
And what's really cool about this turkey call is it's modeled after an identical call found in Ohio and carbon dated at 4,000 years old.
No.
Oh,
Wow.
That's awesome.
So the first turkey call was probably the human voice, but they also made this wingbone turkey call, and it works. I'll just demonstrate a little bit. So it's different from what most hunters use, and I think being different is good. Mike's got a mouth call, which is what a lot of us use as well.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So cool.
I know.
One of the benefits of a mouth call that I love is that you don't have to use your hands. Like a box call, you have to pick it up, and yet there's a lot of hand movement there, or even a slate call, there's some hand movement. So when you're ready and set up and aimed, a mouth call, all you need is your mouth to... And it's a lot of fun. It takes a lot of practice, right, Gordon, to get that down. It's not an easy thing to get down.
Some people can't do the mouth call, but there are other calls that are very good. And I would say, Eric, in answer to your question about what advice would you give a turkey hunter, go hunting, and that's like number one. I would say most turkey hunters, in my experience, call too often and too loud.
Mm-hmm.
A soft touch is a good way to approach a turkey, and call very lightly. And I think the reason people call loud and often, literally, they want to be found by the turkey. But trust me, a turkey, when they hear just the lightest call, hundreds of yards away, they will find you to the very tree.
Yep.
They will find you. So calling a lot is, I would say, something to avoid.
It's not natural.
Very little subtle calls. The other thing you can do, make those subtle calls and then take your hand and rake the leaves and make a little leaf rustling sound as a hen walks and feeds. These are things that kind of can tip the scale.
Oh, yeah. I think that's a good point. You know, if you go on YouTube or a certain platform where you could watch, there's a lot of great videos of turkeys actually calling and try to mimic what they're doing. I think a lot of people try to call really loudly also to get the tom to gobble. And you want to know where the tom is, but you never know quite what angle he's going to pop up over that hill or around that corner. So calling quietly and enticing the bird to approach you softly is definitely key. And also trying different calls. There's a lot of different mouth calls, and not all of them work for me based on the shape of your mouth or the way that you press the air out of your lungs. Different mouth calls could be appropriate, different box calls. If they hear a different sound, maybe you called in a turkey and it was a little too far, and like Gordon said, they could spot you to the tree. And now that tom said, whoa, there's a person over there, and walked away. He's going to need a few days to settle down. the next time you might want to use a different call, because I believe that often they'll remember the call that you used.
I agree.
The Mike Menza turkey call.
Yeah.
That guy's out here again.
He's out here again.
One of my favorite turkey hunts happened in Wyoming County when I worked in DEC's Region 9 out there, out of the Buffalo office. And we mentioned that hunting ends at noon. So I'm hunting a bird after I did a pheasant survey that morning. And it was mid-morning, and I got him to gobble, so game on. And it took a while. It took a long while, and I have to stop at noon. So now it's 11:30, it's 11:40, it's 11:45, and this bird's not coming in yet. So finally, I'm kind of desperate. I just cranked up the call, did the opposite of what I just said, just something different. I cranked it up, and I could tell he started to come, and I could hear him walking. But there was a very large brush pile in front of me, very large, and the bird was either going to come to the left or the right. And I couldn't tell which way. And it mattered a lot because when he broke that corner, if I was pointed the wrong way, I'm busted. Well, it was a lot of fun because a blue jay got over that turkey and started scolding it. And I did my master's on blue jays, so I kind of know their behavior. So this turkey is being harassed by a blue jay, and the blue jay basically pointed the way for that turkey to walk, and I got in the right direction. He came into the open. I cocked my wrist to check my watch. It's 3 minutes to 12. Kaboom. I got him.
There you go. So
Another time, it just helped a hunt to be more successful. Think about the clues that, besides blue jays, squirrels. But one day I was hunting near a horse pasture, and I couldn't tell which way the bird was coming, but a horse started looking in the direction of where the bird might have been, and that's exactly where it was. It was studying that turkey as it walked in.
Oh, really?
So that horse gave me the clue.
Pay attention to surroundings.
Definitely. So, Mike, you mentioned YouTube earlier, and fans of our social media page may have seen you in some of your very passionate videos that you produce, really talking about hunting on Long Island, but also the mentoring program. Can you talk a little bit about why we have a mentoring program and why that's important to our overall hunting and conservation efforts in the state?
Of course. Yeah. Mentorship programs are really important. We have a Hunt Fish New York program where you could go in and apply for these events, and they're great because if you didn't grow up with it or you don't have friends or family to show you, well, guess what? We have people that can take you out. Some of them are DEC staff, hunter education instructors, and they're very knowledgeable and have a deep passion for hunting. So you have to get on the website and go and apply to these things because they're very special. We have orientations. We show all of the safety aspects. So being introduced to something the right way definitely is an opportunity that we offer. And there's a lot of them throughout the whole state, and we're trying to implement some more through the hunter education program.
There's a technical skill that I think is worth mentioning. This is before the season even opens, and that is knowing your firearm, knowing your shotgun.
Mm-hmm.
There are many shotguns out there to choose from. There are companies that make turkey specialized shotguns. They're very, very good. A lot of people use a 12 gauge. I personally like a 20 gauge. Regardless of what you use, you need to know how it performs at certain ranges. Because with turkey hunting, it is a head and neck shot, and you want many pellets going into the lethal area for a quick, humane kill. The only way to know that is to test your shotgun with the ammunition you're going to use.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to spend some range time. This is critical. So now we have a shotgun, let's say, that's performing very well at 25 yards. And that's your distance. That's your range. Now you need to be able to estimate those ranges in the woods when the bird is coming in. And turkeys are so large, when they display especially, a lot of people get the range wrong, and then they don't get the bird. So it's important to know your shotgun, then know your range when you're actually hunting. And if you think it's in range, I recommend just waiting a few more steps and giving that bird a little bit more time to get closer.
Yeah, and sometimes it's also the setup. So I like to set up in an area where I can't see the turkey until he comes over the hill right in range. because I've made the mistake many of times, actually yesterday morning, where one came across a field and it saw me because I was on the edge of the field and it was too late. So sometimes the setup is key. And a lot of that stuff you would learn through these mentorship programs, all these specific tactics and skill sets.
So I was really fortunate. My son had sort of aged out of the youth hunting program when he became interested in hunting. He went ahead and signed himself up totally
nice.
independently for hunter ed and did that class. He felt a little out of place because there were a lot of 12-year-olds there, and he was 17.
Mm-hmm.
But then we were really blessed when we met with Gordon, and Gordon took him out on his first turkey hunt last year, which was great. They were
That's
not
awesome.
Successful. I have higher hopes for this weekend.
Saturday.
Yep.
Make it happen.
Nice.
Well, success, I like to talk about success because it's not about harvesting an animal. That's not success. For me personally in hunting, I think success is hearing a gobble, right? Even starting with that. Or if you see the turkey and you called it in, that's a huge success. Even if you didn't get a shot, that you called that bird in, give yourself a pat on the back because you did an awesome job. And that was a great hunt.
So speaking of success, once you are successful, we have talked on the show a couple times about, our favorite recipes. And I think if you listen to the Road
Sean
Salt
and I are
episode,
foodies.
we are very much so. Road Salt episode, we talked a lot about brining. I myself am a wet brine kind of guy.
Dry brine.
Dry brine here, spatchcock over here too.
Yep.
But I like a smoked turkey breast, so good, apple cider brine. What are your favorite recipes and what do you guys recommend for folks to try out?
Ooh.
Well, let me kick that off, and
Sure.
then you do the recipe
Yeah.
stuff. I want to talk to you about getting the meat from that bird in your refrigerator or freezer. So the breast meat is to die for, and it's fairly easy to remove the breast meat. Of course, you can pluck the whole bird and do a traditional presentation. That's nice for Thanksgiving or Christmas, but in your freezer, they take a lot of space. So I usually fillet out the meat. So you get the breast meat out, you get the legs off, and now you got the rest of the bird. I take the rest of that bird, which many people might say there's not much meat on it, but if you put it in a pot, boil it down, you're going to get a lovely stock for soups and stews.
Nice.
The other thing you do, which I believe just contributes to a better use of the entire bird, is to take the legs, which are very tough because turkeys are on their feet a lot. They can fly, but they're on their feet most of the day, and so they're tough. I pressure can them. And when you pressure can those legs, the meat pulls apart like pulled pork. So that's how I
Is it
utilize like
lunchtime?
every tidbit. And Mike, you can talk about recipes perhaps.
Yeah, I would say my favorite is turkey cutlets. I like to cut them into cutlets and then pound them because they could be very dense. So I try to pound them out and flatten them out and then use some breading and put it on a pan and put it on a low heat. You don't want to cook it too fast, but a little bit of lemon, salt and pepper, and turkey cutlets are just delicious and very healthy for you too. Turkey meat is very healthy anyway. Maybe not the breading I put on there, but it is very healthy. Not too much fat in the meat. So.
And Sean, you mentioned smoking. That's an excellent way to prepare a turkey. My son has done that. It's just to die for. So good.
Definitely.
So good.
Well, demerits to you two for not bringing any samples. I appreciate the calls. Very nice of you to do, but now I am hungry, Erica.
Yeah.
I should eat lunch before these shows.
Seriously.
I have a fantasy that I haven't quite pulled off yet, but it's to harvest a wild turkey in the morning, catch a trout in the afternoon, and collect either morels, ramps, or fiddleheads and put
Oh, there you
together a
go.
meal from
Full
nature.
sustainable.
Oh,
yeah.
That's a
That
perfect
sounds-
day.
Yeah.
That's a great day.
We're going to take a short break and be right back talking to Gordon Batcheller and Mike Menza on their journeys to DEC.
Want to get offline and get outside? Join us for Get Outdoors and Get Together Day on Saturday, June 14th, 2025. Get Outdoors and Get Together Day brings together people of all abilities, ages, identities, and backgrounds for fun, healthful activities as part of the Governor's initiative to broaden the diversity of users and ensure inclusivity of access to state public lands. To find an event near you, search Get Outdoors and Get Together Day at dec.ny.gov.
So, Gordon, you're no longer at DEC, but I want to talk a little bit. If you could tell us how you came to the agency. Like, what was your path to DEC?
Well, I think it started with, and as long as I can remember, fourth grade or even younger, I just had a fascination with live stuff. And I was always outside. I grew up on Long Island, but my roots are in West Hampton. At the time, it was a very rural landscape. So I learned a lot about nature and enjoyed nature. I also had an affinity for hunting programs, hunting books, hunting stories. And so I paid attention to those things as a kid. And they kind of morphed into an interest in wildlife management. Many of the people I work with and who are wildlife biologists came through wildlife biology kind of accidentally. They learned about it maybe when they got to college. It's something they could do. I always knew it was something I could do. And actually, the New York State Conservationist magazine was very influential.
Same here.
I wrote letters in to the letters to the editor section. I got replies. I kind of just consumed that magazine. And so I always knew I wanted to work in New York in that agency. And it's never a sure thing, but I went to graduate school in Oklahoma State and finished up in December of 80 and started in Region 9 in January of 81.
Oh, wow.
And I stayed with the agency my entire career. I'm still working with the Fish and Wildlife Agencies in my new position with the Northeast Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies. I just love the agency work because, look, New York State DEC is and are the trustees of wildlife in New York State. You are the people that take care of stuff. I'm on the outside now. I really appreciate what you do. There's lots of groundbreaking research being done in New York. There's people thinking about mentorship programs and ways to make it better for young people to start hunting. And I just think that the agencies do great work to sustain wildlife populations. And it's a tradition that started with Teddy Roosevelt here in New York.
How about you, Mike?
Yeah, well, I had a kind of different situation where I grew up in the city, but I went to the country every weekend and learned about hunting and fishing in the outdoors and obviously fell in love with it. And I knew at a young age that this is something that I really, really wanted to do. And I'm just so grateful that I got into it. I think one of my first mentors was a biologist, Larry Bafaro. He retired a few years ago, and he was great, kind of got me in the field, showed me the ropes after I had graduated college and started working for this department. And ever since then, it's just been an amazing experience. All the people that I've met, all the different programs, they're all very special. We're all working towards the same thing, and that's, saving the environment and doing what we can to protect these species. And it's a beautiful thing to see everybody work towards their passions and do what they love to do. And it's an honor to be here.
So as we covered on the beginning of the show, Mike, you are the musician who opens up our show every other week here on these episodes. When did music come into play in your life? And do you have any fun stories you want to tell us about your musical endeavors?
Hey, since I was crawling, I was getting played music. My parents are super into music, and my father, he likes vintage guitars. He collects them. So I was always into kind of vintage music, rock and roll and blues. And I feel very grateful. Dion DiMucci, he put me on his record. He's a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer.
Oh, wow.
Along with Eric Clapton and a few other artists. So that was a really cool experience. Shout out to Dion. But it's just always been my other passion, and juggling both. And then being asked to play the song was an honor for this podcast. I was like, hey, I get to do it for DEC too. This is just a great world right now. So.
Totally. So what was your inspiration behind the song? Because we hadn't talked before this. We sort of put out a call to anyone at DEC to come up with a riff. And I don't know, the first time I heard it, I'm like, that is the song for this show. So what inspired you?
I guess, I love I kind of wanted to have a swampy kind of woodsy feel to it, and I had to stick with my roots, which is the blues. So I kind of picked up my slide guitar, and it was a dobro, and I kind of just started playing, plugged in. I had a little recording system going on, and I said, "This feels right," and played it, for a few people, and they said, "It sounds pretty good." So I sent it up, and when I got the news it was going on the podcast, I was super excited. So
was I, and thanks to the wonderful team behind you here in the podcast studio. They, added the loon because I thought we needed a little New York wildlife flavor. It's really important, but appreciate you doing that, and really, truly appreciate you both being on the show today.
You're welcome.
This was
a lot
an
of
awesome
fun.
conversation about turkeys.
Yeah.
And really appreciate, Gordon, all that you've done
Thank you.
on behalf of Wildlife Conservation of the State.
Appreciate it.
Mike, you got some big shoes to fill, but you're filling them really well down on Long Island, and really appreciate everything that you're doing.
Oh, thanks, Sean. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation to be here.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. This was great.
Turkeys, a love story.
Indeed, Erica. This was such a fun conversation with Gordon and
It
Mike.
really was.
And it's sort of the old
And
and
a
new
long
guard.
time coming.
Yeah, definitely. This was one of your highlight episodes that
It
you wanted
was.
to do, and it was an awesome conversation today to hear from them on turkeys in New York State. So obviously, get offline, buy your hunting license, check out Mike and the mentoring program here at DEC. If you've never tried hunting before, we've got a lot of resources on dec.ny.gov. Please keep emailing us at contact@dec.ny.gov with more of what you want to hear on the show and any questions that we didn't cover on the show for our guests. But most importantly, Erica, what can everyone do?
Get outside.
All right, guys, I know we just closed down the show, but just because Mike Menza is on and does our intro music, we thought we'd have a little outro song today. So, Mike, why don't you hit us up with a little something, something?
There you go.
Talking turkey, DEC does what? Oh, yeah. Why not, Erica? Come on, sing along, Erica. Talking turkey, New York State success story. This is why I don't sing. Thank you, Mike Menza. You're the best.
Oh my God.
We wrote a song right there.
Oh my God.
DEC Does What is a production of DEC's Division of Communication, Education, and Engagement. Our theme music is an original composition by Mike Menza, wildlife technician with DEC's Division of Fish and Wildlife. Like what you heard on this episode? Please leave a review and share this episode with others. Want to learn more about DEC's wide-ranging efforts to protect New Yorkers and the environment? Visit dec.ny.gov or connect with us on social media. You can find us using @NYSDEC. For more information on DEC Does What, visit dec.ny.gov/podcast.